This demo is to show you new features of QDA Miner 6. We will start with the new importation features. When you import Excel spreadsheet, the first major change is that when you import an Excel spreadsheet, the software will guide you. Up until now, this is how it has been done before, but now it will show you all the items, and you could choose, for example, which row contained the variable name. If there's a description on another row, you could select it, and you could tell where the data starts. So it's a little bit more flexible here, but it will also then allow you to select variables that you want. If I don't want this subcategories, and if I want to call it something else, I can rename it to category 2, and I can change the type, short string, for example. And if I import, it will make all those changes and will create a project. We also had the ability to import data from LexisNexis and Factiva. Those are two news transcripts database. For LexisNexis, it's also a legal document database. This is the Factiva output, and it contains about 100 news transcripts from different newspapers. Here it's mainly the Washington Post, but it has some structure. And the idea is that we want to create a project out of that where each news will become a case in QDA Miner. This is for Factiva, and for LexisNexis, it has this structure which they introduced last year that contains several identifiers that allow us to find the language, find what it is about, and in which industry and geographically where this news happens. Okay, so let me save that. Okay, so in order to import those, I will give you an example with LexisNexis. I will go, and those are my LexisNexis file. I will select those four. They contain about 100 news each. Click OK, and I will call it LexisNexis. I will override that, and it will create a project extracting different information like the title, the main body of the text, the subject classified by LexisNexis, the geographic information, and several other information, as well as the date, the source. I'm now ready to start doing some coding and searches, etc. So this is one of the new features that we added to QDA Miner 6. Now, let me show you. I will open a project. Basically, when you wanted to code open-ended responses, this is how QDA Miner was presenting that to you. QDA Miner is document-centric. It was initially designed more for coding interviews, long documents, reports. But when it comes to analyzing open-ended, you could have thousands of them, and the thing is that you will only see a small portion of it, okay? So it's not the most convenient way of coding open-ended responses, although we did have several tools, like the cluster extraction tool, that allow you to code those items more quickly and more efficiently. But we thought that a better interface would be interesting, and what we did introduce is a grid view mode that allow you to see at the top all the open-ended responses in a grid view, so that you could easily move down and look at all different response, select items, but you could also code things easily. And this is synchronized below, so if you code here, you could attach more than one code. You could also select more than one items and code those. But the thing is that when you do that, it will only code the full text. But since the full text is available below in the text view, I can, if I want to select only and code only part of it, I can do that quite easily. Okay, so make easier to navigate through open-ended and see more this way. And I can also reduce the size of the font if I want to see even more. Now, there's several tools here that are available to help you code. First, I can attach comments. So I will attach the comments to changing battery, and I will close that. But, and if I want to edit that, I can edit here, or I can add the comments to the other one. I can also delete items. Now I can also filter my grid. If I filter, I can filter on the text. So let's look for, if I put hair or skin, the software will find and filter, and it will show me how many responses I have. Out of 4,997, and my tables show me 1,115. And of all the items, 22% have been coded. As I can see, I can also filter on code, and I can, for example, see only things that I have not coded, things that are coded, things that contain more or less than a specific number of code, or those that contain specific code or don't contain specific code. So I can filter, for example, uncoded, and I can now focus on things that I still need to code. From there, I can also sort. I can sort alphabetically, and it will sort items here, starting with numbers, but it sorts alphabetically. I can also sort on a text lens, and by combining one after the other, the software will actually, within the same lens, it will keep the prior alphabetical order, so I can see all of those that are quite similar, and I can code those easily. And one of the benefits of sorting on the lens is that I can look at those that have very specific response that may be easier to code. Then I may use some features like the coding similarity search to help see those items in the longer responses. But if I want to see those longer responses, this is those ones. We also added a word cloud analysis that will analyze those data sets. So here it will analyze things that I've not coded, and it will go and it will show me all the things that I've coded. But if I have a filter, let me apply a text filter. Now, of course, if I search, it will show me air as the biggest words. That's an obvious one because it is. And skins, of course. But products is still big. Now, what I'm doing here is simply removing temporarily and recreating a word cloud. But I could also add those to a stop word list. So when I select something, if it's not useful, I can add it instead to the stop word list. That can be edited by going here. Okay, so and the software will automatically detect the language and create the proper stop word list for about 40 different languages. If it does contain more than one language, you may be able to import other stop word lists and combine those. Okay. There are several options for this word cloud. I can change the color. I can also have a different shape. Okay, rectangular, random, or let's do ellipse in from the center. Okay. And I can also change the font. Copy that to the clipboard, add that to my report manager, or save that to disk. I can do the same from here. I can even do some searches by selecting more than one word here and then doing a search, retrieving sentence. Now, the word cloud is available from this grid, but is also available for single document. From here, I could call it the word cloud, and it will give me for this document, and it tells me exactly what's in this document. Now, if I go here, it will analyze all my documents. Okay. Now, one thing that I can do as well is that I can, when I do text retrieval, I have this. So if I search for something good, and I should get quite a lot, and I can now do again a word cloud. Let me remove this to see when they say good, what do they say? Okay, so I can do it from here. I can also do it from a section retrieval, keyword retrieval, data location, and several other ones as well as the coding retrieval. If you retrieve something about, let's say, disappointed, let's retrieve that, retrieve segments. Then I can do a word cloud and see what people are disappointed about. And again, I should remove that, and it will show me things. Then I can go back and retrieve sentence for that contains bottle. Okay. Now the word cloud also has been implemented here so that when I create charts, and now I can have it something that is slightly better. And the thing is that, again, I could also search from that. So I could go back and do a retrieval of everything that was coded as sensitive. Okay. We also added several other charts, like in the coding by variable. Okay, if I look at the different charts that I can create, let me create that for those. Okay, we already had the first four. We added a 100% stack bar that show me the proportion of the codes for each month. And I also have a radar chart that could be useful. And again, everything is customizable. Okay. We also improved the bubble chart. The bubble chart is now you can make it grow much more. Before you only had 3 settings, but also the other thing that we did is that we have something that allows you to transpose it so that here the variable will be shown here and the different codes will be shown as columns. We also changed the correspondence analysis statistics page, which is no longer a text field plain with fixed length character. It is instead a table that you could copy and paste and that you could save to disk or append to your report manager, or maybe create your own graphics using those numbers. But we also had the ability to represent this third dimension on a 2D with a gradient of color that can be customizable. So here it's from blue to light blue to light red to dark red. So July and September, and I think that there's a month here that are in the back. And you have the words here like conditioner, difficult, and skin are along with May and August and maybe June in front. And if I look here, it is the case, okay? So difficult is in the front and we have July in the back. And I can also apply the same gradient of color. So that's a different way of representing the third dimension. This is also one way, but when you have way too many items, it's quite difficult to use that. So we thought one way that could be useful, and you could change the color to your taste. One thing that we had is the ability to create a deviation table, try to show you things that are positively associated or negatively associated with each of those months. Okay, but in green, it will be things that are more often associated with January than other months. Then toothbrush, if I select that, I may see some other ones that get highlighted. And I can only focus on what is unique so that I can see that March is sensitive, is very specific to March, but also to July and December. Okay, now we also had the ability to export to Tableau. Tableau is a kind of pivot tool that is very, very flexible, that is used a lot in the business to do visualization. And if you click on this button that you will find both here and under Analyze Code Frequency, so it will allow you to select what you want to export in terms of coding, and you could then add some variables. And if I do that, for example, I can specify that I want to have up to 5 variables, use a prefix for the code name. And if I click on run, it will run Tableau after creating a Tableau file. If I click save, it will save first. It will allow me to save it somewhere. Then it will ask me whether I want to run it in Tableau. I don't have Tableau here, so I will skip that. Another major new feature is the quotation matrix. Basically, you can access it from 2 locations from here. So retrieve quotation matrix. And let's start with here, but I will show you that I can also call it from the coding by variable. And what it will do is that it will create, let me run it quickly. it will create a large matrix that will group together everything from specific code and for each cases. So it will create a matrix where each column will be each cases and rows will be code. And I will have the different quotes associated with those. So here for Bradley announcement, this is the single quote I have for globalization, no coding for local economy. And for Buchanan, I have three code marks that have been applied, and I can see those here, okay? And I have that for all the codes and the cases I have in my set. Now I can save that to disk, and if I can save that into an Excel spreadsheet, into a SPSS file, XML file, STATA file, but we also have a matrix editor that will be available for free and that will allow anyone to view and edit a matrix created in QDA Miner. And it will be not only for quotation matrix, but for any table that you produce. Let me go back with this dialog to show you what options it has. First, I can search across different documents if I have more than one document per case, and I can also add some variables. I can, if I want to add a few other variables as well, I can tell the software that I don't want only the text, I want the text and any comments, and I can choose which type of comments I want, but in this case I will ask for all the comments. And when I bring comments, I'll be able to get the different comment type that are available, and we will see that, and I can highlight that. So let's try that, and you will see that, for example, Bradley has this quote has 2 comments, this one has 2 comments, this one has none. So it allows me to retrieve as well different comments associated with those. Now, I can also only retrieve the comments, either specific ones or all the comments, or I could also retrieve coded text, but only if they are associated with some comments. So if, let's assume that I want to review things that have been tagged as need review, this will create a huge matrix that will contain every coded text that has been coded, but that also contain a need review comments. I'll try to get all the comments, and I want to show you what we can do here, okay? So I have a few options here. I can change the size, make it smaller or bigger. I can also attach comments to those. And it shows here. I can flip so that the codes will be at the top as column header, while the cases will appear here. And let me resize that slightly. Okay, so the cases will appear as rows. I can also edit items, and let me take this one, for example. I can open that, and I have a text editor that allows me to really work and highlight things. Let me do it this way and change maybe the font size, and let's change the font type. Click OK, so that I can go there. I can add comments and I can edit cells quite easily. If you look carefully, you may have seen that that the memos have changed slightly. Let me go back here. Okay, it's not only the visual presentation, it's actually the fact that you can now attach up to 6 different comments to the same code segments. Before you had to choose one type, and you could only use one type. Now you could type a reflection, and you could have something else. And of course it is customizable like before, but you could have up to 6 different comments attached to a single items. And if you see, when I move my cursor over it, it will actually show me my 3 comments with the labels, proper label associated with each of those in bold. Okay, you see reflection, warning, and paraphrases. In this case, I have reflection and need review. Okay, this combined with the quotation matrix that allow you to retrieve those comments can open new possibilities in terms of what can be done with the software. What I want to show you is that I can now create some variables. We have new ways to create variables. First, I can create numerical variable. And a numerical variable could be complex transformation that combine values of variables or mathematical formula. So I have a lot of mathematical operators here or statistical operators, so I can compute the mean across different variables. So let's simply do a random number. That could be useful for sampling. So I will select the uniform distribution 99, and if I can add +1, so it will be number from 1 to 100. By doing that, I will now have a random number. Let's look at the distribution. Quite often when you wanted to do some crosstabs or create some graphics and you have variables like this that have many values, it could be age, it could be income. What you may want is to create some bins or classes that will group those values. And what we did is that we implemented something that can do binning. So what the software did here, it went through all my response and it tells me that, okay, if I want to have 5, it will create those classes. And this is an equal interval, but I can also ask for equal frequency, which won't make a lot of difference here. If I click OK, and if I store that into a R class for a random class, and click OK, it will create a variable that will recode this into bins. Okay, so binning, quite useful. We can also transform dates here, but dates could be transformed into months, months and year, weekdays, etc., and create a variable that will contain those values. Quite convenient as well, although QDA Miner and WordStat will both deal with dates in their full format and will recode them as needed. It is often more efficient sometimes, especially on very large projects, to create variables initially, preventing the software from having to compute that live. One thing also that we added is that if I go to the properties, is that we can now define missing values for our variables. And this is for our class, and I can say that this is a missing value, but if I have a numerical variable, like random, the missing value could be 5, or so I can have up to 3. The last feature that I want to show you is available from the clustering, and it allows you to assess how good the cluster solution is by creating a silhouette analysis, a silhouette plot, and a silhouette table that show you how good each items are and identify potentially cases that may be categorized elsewhere because they are more associated with other items. So if it's a great tool to assess how good a cluster is, and also maybe identified clusters that may need to be split, so that by increasing the number of cluster, I may split those and end up with a better solution. So it's a nice tool to be able to assess cluster. Those were some of the most important features we implemented in QDA Miner 6. We will likely implement a few other ones, make some small changes. Thank you.